I did that first. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Village Board for May 20th, 2019. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk Canterbury, roll call, please.
Present.
Trustee Lang?
Here.
Trustee Papantos?
Present.
Trustee Rufato?
Here.
Trustee Vito?
Here.
Trustee Vogel?
Here.
President Horker?
Here, you have before you the minutes of the regular meeting of May 6th, 2019. I need a motion for their approval.
So moved. Second.
Motion, Trustee Papantos. Second, Trustee Kruger. Roll call, please.
Kruger, hang on, we got it. Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Rufato?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. Are there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes this evening.
Proclamations, resolutions, and awards. Deputy Clerk.
Hang on 1 second, saving the vote. National Public Works Week. Whereas public works services provided in our community are an integral part of our citizens' everyday lives, and whereas the support of an understanding and informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operation of public works programs and systems such as water, sewer, streets, engineering, urban forestry, public buildings, and fleet maintenance, and whereas the health, safety, and comfort of a community greatly depends on these facilities and services, especially in times of flooding, snow and ice control, or water distribution for fire protection. And whereas the quality and effectiveness of these facilities, as well as their planning, design, maintenance, and construction, are dependent upon the efforts and skill of public works employees. And whereas the efficiency of the qualified and dedicated personnel who staff public works departments is influenced and supported by citizens' attitude and understanding of the importance of the work they perform. And whereas this year marks the 59th Annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association, Patrick Corker, President of the Village of Wheeling, does hereby proclaim May 19th through May 25th, 2019 as National Public Works Week in Wheeling, and calls upon citizens and civic organizations to acquaint themselves with the issues involved in providing our public works and recognize the contributions which public works employees make to our health, safety, welfare, and quality of life.
Thank you, Clerk. Thank you, Mark Janik, for all your department does. Appointments and confirmations. I would like to appoint William Engel to the Board of Health Commission. I need a motion to make this appointment.
So moved.
Motion, Trustee Rufato. Second, Trustee Vogel. Roll call.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Rufato?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. Shall we swear them in or do
As soon as the next.
I would also like to appoint Don Johnson to the Planning Commission Chairperson seat. I need a motion for that appointment.
So moved.
Second.
Motion, Trustee Papantos. Second, Trustee Rufato. Roll call.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Rufato?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes, Mr. Johnson is not here this evening, but Mr. Engel is. Clerk Simpson, that would be you. Clerk, I'm sorry, Clerk Canterbury.
I said yes, though. Travis, want to vote?
I, William Travis Engel,
Having been appointed to the Board of Health Commission in the Village of Wheeling,
having been appointed to the Board of Health Commission in the Village of Wheeling
in the counties of Cook and Lake,
and the counties of Cook and Lake,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United
and
States
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the Office of Board of Health Commissioner
of the office of Board of Health Commissioner
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. Awesome. Welcome.
Very much.
Thank you, Mr. Engel. Citizens' concerns and comments.
Henneberry.
Clerk Henneberry, yes.
Citizen concerns and comments. Members of the public may address the committee with comments regarding only those items that are relevant to village business. No citizen shall speak for more than 5 minutes without the consent of the committee. Members of the general public who wish to address the board must sign the request to speak form prior to the commencement of the public meeting. Mr. Brezek.
Just as a reminder to the public, this is a time for citizens to make their comments and express their concerns. This is not a time for the board or staff to enter into conversation. Neither the board nor the staff will be answering questions. Mr. Brezek.
Reference case 13MC002925 and 15CH15657. From 7/5/13 to 11/15/17, Wheeling's Police and Community Development, along with their subcontractor, removed all personal property on August and September of 2013 and November 1st through 15th of 2017. They had no court order or search warrant to do this. Armed home invasion and criminal damage to property. They did have 2 administrative search warrants, which denies the seizure of documents and tangible items, which expire on 7/26/13 and 9/15/17. In August and September of 2013, Aftermath, along with Wheeling's Police and Community Development, seized all personal property during armed home invasion. In November 2017, they did the same. They did have an administrative search warrant that expired on 7/26/13 and 9/15/17, which denies the seizure of documents or other tangible items. I want all personal property returned and the $124,000 I paid to purchase my home at a sheriff's sale first and second, $51,000 I paid KTJ Wheeling's attorney on 10/30/17 to prevent a second sheriff's sale. Both sales in these amounts weren't authorized by any judge using 65 ILCS 5/11-31-1 statute, which only applies to court orders that property is abandoned. No mention of personal property, but trash, litter, and garbage only. I want the $175,000 extorted from me returned ×3. You and your attorney, KTJ, must be punished for your criminal acts and all personal property returned during the 2013 and 2017 armed home invasions. I also want restitution for the removal of carpeting and tile in 2013 and the tampering of my furnace in November 2017 that resulted in no heat and a gas leak. My water pipes and hot water heater froze and cracked during the 20 below zero weather in 2017 and 2018. I charged Sergeant Hart with accessory in the attempted murder of me. He was informed that my house was full of gas and refused entry by NICOR on 1/5/18 to fix the gas leak. As a result, NICOR had to lock the gas meter, shut and lock the gas meter. Wheeling Police changed all my locks so they could come and go at their leisure. I want a complete list of all people on each day of the home invasions, as well as a list of all personal property seized or destroyed, and an investigation of the attempted murder by tampering with my furnace in November 2017. My phone number is 1-224-247-9033, and my signature is Carl M. Bryzik Jr. I do have court documents substantiating everything I have stated, if you wish to review them. I have tried repeatedly over the last month to talk to you and the police chief, and you both refused to set up an appointment to answer these charges. So I'm going before you and the TV to shine a light on all of this criminal activity the Village of Wheeling has conducted against its citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Do you have any questions?
Not at this moment. Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Staff reports? We have none. Consent agenda. Clerk Hannaberry.
All items listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the village board, and will be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered after all other agenda items. 11A, resolution authorizing acceptance of the State of Illinois previously bid contract with CDW Government, LLC for the purchase of Hewlett-Packard personal computers in the amount of $61,947.90. 11B, resolution authorizing change order number 1 to the 2018 roof repair and replacement contract with Ritterford Roofing Company to reduce the contract amount by $36,264. 11C, resolution accepting a bid and approving the contract with Mead Inc. For the 2019 decorative streetlight fixture replacement program in the amount of $99,692.50. 11D, ordinance amending the Wheeling Municipal Code, Title II, Officers, Administration, and Personnel, Chapter 2.25, Purchases, Contracts, and Bidding Procedures. 11E, ordinance amending Title 8, Chapter 8.60, Possession or Purchase of Tobacco, Tobacco Accessories, or Smoking Herbs by Minors of the Wheeling Village Code to raise the minimum age to 21 years of age. 11F, ordinance amending Title 1, Chapter 28, Ordinance Enforcement through Administrative Adjudication of Municipal Code Violations, Table 1.28.03-1, Table of Offenses and Fines for Title 8, all of the, of the Wheeling Village Code to include sale and alcoholic liquor to minors and intoxicated persons.
Do we have any questions? Trustee Papantos.
Yes, I would like to remove 11E, which would then become 13G.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Do we need a second on that or no?
I don't believe we need a motion.
No, we do not need a motion.
Okay, gotcha.
We did that once.
Agenda. We did. We don't need, it was extra. We don't need it.
Any other concerns or comments? Need a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Motion, Trustee Vogel, second, Trustee which? Papantos? Roll call.
Yep. Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Rafato?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
President Walker?
Yes.
Getting awful casual there.
We have no old business, so we will jump to new business.
13A, ordinance granting variations from Title 19. Do you want me to read all three of these or separate?
Probably.
All three. 13A, ordinance granting variations from Title 19 zoning to permit reductions in required setbacks for a gas station and convenience store at 14 North Elmhurst Road, Vequity, 711, docket numbers 2019, 6A, B, and C. 13E, ordinance granting a variation from Title 21 signs to permit a reduction in required front setback for a freestanding sign associated with the gas station and convenience store at 14 North Elmhurst Road, Vequity, 711, docket number 2019, 6D. 13C, ordinance amending ordinance number 4667 and granting site plan and appearance approval for gas station with convenience store, 14 North Elmhurst Road, Vequity, 711, docket number PC 19-4.
Mr. Jennings, what do we have here?
Thank you. The petitioner, Vequity, doing business as 711, is requesting multiple zoning variations to replace the existing Gulf gas station with a 7-Eleven convenience store serving with gas. The petitioner requires these variations to construct the building that you see here and is described in your packet. The placement of the building along the west property line requires a setback variation. There's a variation for the location of the parking, and the canopy requires the fuel island canopy requires a variation as well. The additional item is a sign setback variation. Due to the limited space on the site, the petitioner needs to locate the new pylon sign closer to Dundee Road as part of this redevelopment plan. The Plan Commission has reviewed all of these items and has recommended approval. There is a condition of approval on the sign variation that they do need to return for the appearance review of that sign. The sign that was shown to the Planning Commission that's included in your packet is a placeholder. It's just a sample sign, and they understand that they do need to return for the full SCBA review of that. Just technically speaking, the site plan approval item, which is docket PC 19-4, which is 13C tonight, replaces portions of the original special use ordinance. The original special use ordinance includes the special use for the gas station and car wash, and it includes all of the site plan materials that are associated with the original construction, and then repeated when they redeveloped some of the portions of the site in 2011 and 12. So in order to make the legislative record correct, that ordinance would need to be amended to swap out the plan sets to reference this set of plans. Most of the conditions of approval from the 2011-2012 redevelopment are no longer relevant with this package of plans. So those conditions of approval relate to just correcting the record of the plans and making the conditions of approval make sense with the replacement of those plans. The petitioner is here. If you have any questions, I can also answer any questions that you have on this.
Trustee Papatos?
Thank you. For the petitioner, I think. Sorry.
No, it's good.
Hi.
Please state your name for the record.
Kim Ward.
Thank you.
Thank you. For a quick question, you're going to remove an existing car wash, and forgive me, I'm not familiar with this. Would that probably cause remediation, and you are going to be moving gas tanks, and that will cause remediation, correct?
Yes.
What does that do to a timeline on a project like this?
I'm not positive at the time. I can definitely find out for you guys.
I'm just curious, is this going to be a construction project that lasts for a year, 6 months, 2 years?
Probably 6 months once we get started.
Okay. And are your signs basically the corporate sign?
Yes, signage will be under a separate permit, but it will most likely be 7-Eleven corporate.
So
Yes.
it's going to be the standard 7-Eleven sign?
Correct, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Papantos. Trustee Lang?
Thank you. Just a quick question on, I haven't seen this concept before. Is there any examples of this in the area that?
Yes, so we just completed one in Crystal Lake. That would be similar. Do you have other? Open on Thursday. It just opened on Thursday.
Oh, okay.
So that one's open. Are there any other in the area? Mount Prospect opens June 6th.
So is this the kind of a new standard design that you're going with? Are the buildings similar?
Yeah, he can speak to it. He's a 7-Eleven rep, so.
Mark Bettenhausen with 7-Eleven. I'm head of real estate, and this is a 3,000 square foot building. It is a new design that we're trying to roll out here in Chicagoland. Everything inside is going to be all new finishes, new up-to-date machinery and mechanics. It's probably nothing you've ever seen in Chicagoland in a 7-Eleven.
And that includes the pumps, the works?
Correct. The fuel here will be branded 7-Eleven gas.
Good. Good luck with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Rufato?
Thank you. Just a couple of questions about couple of things.
Yeah.
Can you describe the materials that are being used on the building?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me pull up that page. So this is, sorry.
The materials here, it's going to be a masonry-like building. It's a Nietzsche hot panel. It's very popular in all these new retail buildings, whether it's a McDonald's that builds or a Burger King. They're all going to this panel feature that looks full masonry building. They are cement-based blocks, panels, sorry. I'll get the examples. Sorry while I open all this up. If you have the,
I don't have this slide.
yeah, so it's I found it. It's A3.01. The fiber cement panels are what's going to be the exterior, so it's not necessarily a brick. These are cement panels that have the exact look like a brick. We opened up one of these in Wheaton last year, and then Crystal Lake opens up on Thursday and Mount Prospect on June 6th.
So Andrew, is this something that we've used, that has been used in the village? I don't recall anything like this.
It is. We have had a few samples of it. The one that just popped into my head now would be the Lexington healthcare building. They have a pretty similar, it's an older version of that cement fiber panel that has a brick appearance to it. We have used it in a few. That's just the one that comes to mind.
Durable, weather-wise?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. And I know one of the things that, okay, unfortunately, I'm still in between Plan Commission and being a trustee here. The irrigation system, was that a condition? Because it reads that if it's needed. I think one of the statements, if it's needed, we'll put it in, is that, but normally we have that and it's part of the plan.
It is a requirement. They have
Right.
acknowledged that it's a requirement. The design of it is not complete yet, but the condition of approval is a reminder that when they go to permit, they will
Right.
supply a drawing for that.
Thank you. And then last thing about the sign. The sign is going to be, and I know this is, again, going back for approval, but the sign is going to be actually on Dundee Road. So the existing sign is at the corner that can be seen from 83 Elmhurst Road and Dundee, but this is going to be just on Dundee, so facing that. You won't be able to see it on 83. Is that?
So I think it was our understanding when we started this process that being closer to the corner would have required a bigger variance, and if that's not the case, we are comfortable shifting
Okay,
it to.
so that'll be so as long as you're flexible, I guess that'll be taken care of when the sign review happens. Okay, fine. Thank you. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Rufato. Are there any other questions or concerns on item A? Left, right?
Motion to approve?
I was just wondering, should we have a discussion on all of them and just,
Usually we do all the discussion up front, whatever you'd like to do, and then 3 separate votes.
Great. Well, we already have a motion on this one. Who made the motion?
I did, but I'll withdraw it to continue on.
All right,
and I'll
excellent, that would be best.
I'll pop it on later.
Item B. You guys just wait right there. No, it's them as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think we just open it up for
Yeah.
questions for all 3.
All right. Does anyone have questions or comments about the Ordinance B sign variation? C, the amending the ordinance, site plan approval? Left, right, okay. Now,
Now can I motion to approve?
thank you,
Second.
Trustee Lang. Second, Trustee Papantos, on item 13A.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Rufato?
Yes.
Trustee Papanos?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. I need a motion for approval on 13B.
So moved. Second.
Motion, Trustee Papantos, second, Trustee Krueger. Roll call.
Give me 1 second, let me catch up.
Sorry.
That's right. It's speedy today. Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Rufato?
Yes.
Trustee Papanos?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. Motion C has 3 conditions. Should we read those in, or?
Do you have those, Andrew?
Conveyance,
Yeah, I can.
convenience store and fuel pumps may operate 24 hours a day. All signage is subject to SCBA review prior to sign permit issuance, and prior to the issuance of the building permit and irrigation plan shall be submitted for staff review and approval. Just so it's there. Motion for 13C.
So moved.
Trustee Rufato.
Second.
Second, Trustee Lang. Roll call, please.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Rufato?
Yes.
Trustee Vigo?
Yes.
Vigo, did I say Vigo? Oh my God,
Whatever.
sorry. Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. Welcome.
Thank you.
We're saying Vigo and Vogel together.
We'll make it.
Good Lord.
13D.
13D, ordinance amending Title 21 signs of the Wheeling Municipal Code to add religious assembly uses to the list of special uses permitted, an electronic message center sign, Village of Wheeling, docket number 2019-10.
Mr. Jennings, please.
Thank you. This request originated when staff was reviewing a sign permit application for religious assembly fairly recently. The electronic message center sign that we were reviewing, we discovered that it was not permitted in the zoning district. We dug into this a little bit deeper and reviewed the list of land uses that are permitted to have an electronic message center sign. We through a review of the various options available, we felt that the list of land uses that were allowed to have an electronic message center sign was all land uses that were fairly similar to religious assembly. We did not see anything from the original preparation of the sign code that would suggest that religious assembly was intended to be left off the list. And rather than ask the organization to apply for a variation, we thought the correct solution to this would be to go ahead and suggest an amendment to the code so that religious assembly use could then apply for their sign permit. We prepared the public hearing, sent it to the Plan Commission. The Plan Commission had some concern that the way our original amendment to the sign code was drafted might open up additional locations that would potentially be inappropriate for an electronic message center. So they sent the staff back to just ensure that there were adequate controls placed in the language. We came back on the May 9th meeting with a revision that we discussed with the Plan Commission at that time. The consensus of the Commission was that as revised, it would be an acceptable level of control to limit the functions of an electronic message center sign based on the location if needed. And that can be done during the appearance review of the sign. Each sign would still need to go through an appearance review. We have criteria and standards in the code already that do mention limitations on the functions, so you don't have strobe features, you don't have a lot of video playing in a way that might cause a traffic hazard. So this is pretty consistent with the language in the sign code already, and we didn't have any issues with what the Plan Commission recommended. So in the end, the consensus was to recommend approval with a slight modification to the staff language, and that is the ordinance that you see in front of you tonight. Just as a side note, we do intend, as I mentioned with the Plan Commission, we do intend to prepare a much larger overhaul of the sign code. It's going to take us several months to do that, and rather than have a petitioner wait while we do that, we felt that it was best to go ahead and move this through separately. So that is our recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Jennings. Is there any questions from the board? If there are no questions, I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Motion, Trustee Krueger, second, Trustee Rufato. Roll call.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
I believe he has to abstain from this.
Mr. Vogel, you might abstain.
This relates to St. Joe's, is that right?
I don't know.
Yes.
This
Yes.
relates to the sign code. Does it really relate to St. Joe's at this
looking
point?
for,
It is. The original petition for the sign permit was submitted by St. Joseph the Worker.
yeah, so I'd advise Trustee Vogel.
Okay, I will abstain for that reason then.
And again, state the reason for the record.
I'm the director of the Finance Council, which hasn't approved the sign yet, so.
Thank you.
Trustee Vito? Oh, I'm sorry, Jim, are you done?
I'm a member of the government, so should I abstain? But, all right, yes.
Trustee Rufato?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes.
13E, resolution awarding a facade and building improvement grant for Pearle Vision, 727 West Dundee Road.
Mr. Jennings again.
Thank you, President Horker. In front of you tonight is a draft resolution that would allow for, a resolution that we've drafted that would award a facade and building improvement grant to Pearle Vision at 727 West Dundee Road. The items that are the subject of the grant application have already been reviewed and approved by the Plan Commission, so you're not being asked to approve the items themselves. The fence, the landscaping, and the wall sign, the associated lighting, and the cabinet sign out by Dundee Road are all approved. The Plan Commission recommendation, the Plan Commission approval is one part of the grant process. The other part of it is the the Facade Grant Committee, which is a staff committee, reviews the proposed costs associated with the work and makes an award calculation and recommendation to the board, and that is what is in front of you tonight. The Facade Grant Program is a reimbursement program. The program can reimburse up to 50% of the eligible costs, so we require a calculation based on the proposals for each aspect of the work. The committee in this case has recommended an amount which is $6,435 as corrected. There's an error in the original preparation of the resolution, so the amount is $6,435. The petitioner is here to answer questions you may have. I'm also happy to answer any questions you have on the grant program, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jennings. Trustee Krueger, you had a question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Director Jennings, I have a question on any other corporate mandated sign upgrades that have occurred in the village of Wheeling. Do you know of any? I know KFC Taco Bell had an improvement because their corporation required a signage change, rebranding, if you will. Sure. I'm just wondering if anyone else has.
We've had a few. Some of them have been the subject of facade grant applications. State6 Chevrolet had a corporate mandated changeover a few years ago that went through the Plan Commission, went through the grant program. So it does happen from time to time. Some of them provide, it depends on company by company, but some of them provide full funding, some provide a portion of the funding, and they look for the local operation to chip in their piece, and some of it, it's totally 100% up to the franchisee to foot the bill for it. So it runs the full gamut.
Got it. Per our sign code, which you just got done saying that we're going to overhaul the thing, so maybe this question is one of the things you'll pick up, but do signs on a building like this Pearle Vision sign, does that need to be illuminated? Is that part of the code?
So if I'm understanding your question correctly, the illumination of the sign is not required. There are regulations about how the sign is illuminated, if it's going to be illuminated. So the existing sign, to replace it with something exactly like that with the new corporate image on it, wouldn't meet the requirements of the sign code today. So there are ways of doing it. There are ways of internally illuminating a sign that could meet the sign code, but the full illumination of a cabinet on a wall sign is no longer permitted.
Okay, so the old sign is not code?
Correct.
Okay. And the last question, and perhaps it's more for the petitioner. Yeah, come on up. Tell us who you are.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Ken Portnoy. I own the Pearle Vision at 727 West Dundee Road. I'm the optometrist, the owner, and the franchisee for the past 37 years. It's been a pleasure to be in the village for that long.
All right. Well, thanks for coming.
And just to address what Mr. Jennings was saying, in this particular case, I bear the full cost of it. Our franchisor does not contribute anything to it, so it's all on me.
Fair enough. Some of the pictures that were in my packet showed a bit of the parking lot. It looked a bit alligatored to me.
Yes.
I'm wondering if there's any intention in the future of perhaps
There is some
resurfacing.
intention in the future for doing that. And in the midst of the exterior stuff that I'm doing, I'm also doing new flooring, new painting, and some other things inside as well. So financially, I need to get through that first before I can look to a very expensive project for the parking lot. However, I do almost every year or every other year, I do seal coat it, restripe it. It looks better. And not part of Pearle Vision was the fence, which I'm doing myself because, I don't know, from all those windstorms we've had recently, that hasn't held up well at all. So that, I think, is already permitted and should be done in the next couple of
What
weeks.
kind of fence again? I'm sorry, stockade?
Yeah. That was approved by the Plan Commission.
Got it. And thank you, Dr. Portnoy.
Sure.
Director Jennings, on the, if the petitioner decides to do his parking lot in the future, would that be eligible for?
It can be. There's two different parts of the facade grant regulations that might make it somewhat difficult to do that as a grant program. It does need to be combined with something that we consider a non-capital improvement, aesthetic improvement. So if there was a desire to do that, it would be a challenge. They would need to come up with something that qualifies as an aesthetic improvement to combine with it. There's also an interpretation that would have to be made related to the use of the grant program on the same property twice. We've had that come up occasionally, and the interpretation really depends on the circumstances. But the strict letter of the grant program says that you can't use the grant to redo the same thing twice. As long as they weren't replacing the signage and everything, the interpretation would probably be that it wouldn't be a second bite at the apple on the signage.
Very good. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Kruger. Anyone else? If there's no other questions or comments, I'd be looking for a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Motion, Trustee Vogel, second, Trustee Papantos. Roll call.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Rafato?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you all very much. And to Mr. Jennings, I just want to say that the staff, especially Steve Robles, has been very, very professional, very nice in getting me through this. And I appreciate all the help.
Appreciate that.
all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
13F, resolution waiving competitive bidding and authorizing the village manager to approve a contract with the Langos Corp for demolition services for 221 South Wheeling Road, Evangers Pet Food Factory, in the amount of $289,805.
Mr. Jennings again.
Thank you. The village has been in some stage of code enforcement with this subject property for quite some time. This most recent iteration began when we observed that the property appeared to have been vacated by the business. We contacted them and informed them that we had determined the date that they had vacated the property and advised them that reuse of the property for a factory in that zoning district was no longer permitted. So if they wanted to reestablish use of the property, they would need to address a wide variety of code issues as well as establish a use that was permitted in that zoning district. So we gave them the advance warning. Through the communication with the business, we determined that additional enforcement action was needed, and that enforcement action led to the preparation of a demolition notice. We worked through the process with the property owner and ultimately came to an agreement that was entered at court fairly recently that allows the village to demolish the structure and lien the property for the cost of the demolition and the additional village work that led up to the demolition. So for the last several months, we prepared a RFP in the event that something like this did ultimately come to pass. We wanted to have a recommendation for a demolition contract to place in front of the board for your consideration. So as the timing worked out perfectly in this case, the demolition, the agreed to order came through at the same time that we completed the review of the proposals, and that's what you have in front of you tonight. The reason this is a waiving of competitive bidding is it's a pretty unique project. It's directly adjacent to the railroad right-of-way. The village is concerned with the proximity to the railroad and just the unique aspects of this demolition project. So we sent the RFP out to a list of 7 or 8 contractors who had done work in this area on larger demolition projects, complicated projects, and therefore we didn't put it in the newspaper and solicit bids in that way. So we do believe that waiving competitive bidding makes sense. Between the bids that we received, the demolition contractor, Langos Corp, had the lowest of the bids. The bids are very comparable. The RFP ensured, the way that it was written, it ensured that we would be receiving bids that we could compare apples to apples. The contract is being prepared. The draft contract that you have in front of you includes a pretty substantial contingency. Due to the configuration of this property, we do believe that there's a high likelihood that we might uncover some underground storage tank, underground grease basin. There might be an additional well that we're not aware of. So the contractors were advised in their proposal preparation to assume some level of unknown, and so each of them provided a contingency. So this contract, as it's written, includes the full contingency in it. The village has already placed a perimeter fence to secure the property. It's in substantial disrepair. It's a danger to the public as it stands, which is why we have been pursuing this anyway. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions that you have on the project.
Trustee Vogel, then Trustee Lang.
How big of a piece of property is that? Do you have a rough estimate?
Rough estimate, I would say about 3 acres total.
3 acres. You talked about putting the fence up, et cetera, on other work we've done over there. Is all of that eligible to be leaned against?
All of this would be eligible to be leaned against, yes. We haven't done too much physical work out there just yet. We've done an asbestos test and report, the fence, and we've done some pest control, but beyond that, we haven't done physical work. But yes, it would all be eligible for the lien. So
would we recoup it if they sold it?
We would recoup it if they sold it, that's correct. It's also TIF eligible, so as long as it's related to a public purpose in the TIF district, with the idea being that the property could be redeveloped in the future, it would be appropriate to use the TIF district to recoup those costs as well.
Okay. If we were able to recoup it from the owner, are we eligible to charge interest on those costs, or?
There's a statutory interest we can ask for. Under state law, yes. And the other thing we can do potentially is foreclose the lien, which we've done on other properties, which means you can take title for the property for the amount of money that's owed to us, and the owner would have to, in order to avoid losing the title, come up with the amount that's owed.
Is there a time limit before we can do that?
It's like a mortgage foreclosure. We'd have to serve a notice of a complaint. It could extend out a year to 18 months, but it's an option.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Vogel. Trustee Lang, then Trustee Pep.
Thank you. Well, that kind of leads into what I was going to ask, is that this property, once it's cleared, and it's been a long time coming that this place needs to be cleared, what's the future of it? So I'd like to pursue any kind of options that we have to make this property usable once again. It's in a location right next to our town center, train station, you name it. And so, yeah, whatever we can do to pursue that as quickly as possible. Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Lang. Trustee Papantos?
Thank you. Do you know how old that building is? I mean, I remember it since I was a kid, that we used to go look at the horses.
Really old.
Thanks. He said really old.
Say goodbye to the horses.
Yeah, I think that the original structure dates back to around 1930.
1930?
There's been work done since then. It's actually about 6 different structures that were all connected. But the original plant on the northeast corner of the property and the stables on the west end of the property, I think, date to the 1930s.
I was not a kid in the 1930s. I just want to make that clear. I wasn't looking at the horses then. Forgive my naivete. it's almost $300,000. Is that standard to demolish a group of buildings like that? It just seems like a lot of money to knock something down.
So there's a lot involved in this. So the RFP has certain requirements of the contractor. There are just, without getting into everything, there are some underground features they will have to deal with. There's substantial removal of concrete they have to deal with. These are expenses that wouldn't necessarily be normal for every demolition. So although the structure itself may not be that large, the site has been substantially paved. There are considerations that need to be made for proximity to the railroad, additional insurance that's required due to that. There's substantial asbestos remediation that needs to be done. So there are a handful of things that need to be done. There's items at the property that can't be disposed of in a landfill, which increases the disposal cost. So it's a pretty complicated demolition, even though it is a relatively small property.
I know when we demolished the building on Milwaukee Avenue, I believe 119, it took a long time to get the no further remediation letter issued. Are we going to run into the same type of problem with this?
It's too soon to tell on that. Our court order does not get into any sort of environmental consideration, so it's too early for us to speculate on that. We don't have, from the property owner, there's no phase 1, phase 2 environmental work. This is right now, issue of the safety of the structure. It does need to come down. It's in the interest of the public to have it removed and make sure that it's the asbestos is remediated.
I'm just curious as to how long it'll take before we can actually market the property for something else.
We do not own this property, so we would not be marketing it at this stage. This is a matter of strictly removing it, removing the concrete and seeding it. It could eventually be marketed, but that is not part of this demolition.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Papantos. Any other? Trustee Rufato and then Trustee Kruger.
Andrew, has the site been cleared already as far as outside the building? Were there trucks there and things like that the hood had to be cleared also?
We've been at this for quite some time, so there have been different deadlines. One of the deadlines was for the property owner to remove all of the equipment that they wanted to remove, that they would not consider to be part of the demolition. So if they had items such as trucks that they did not want to be disposed of by this demolition action, they had a deadline to remove everything. So yes, there were trucks, there was equipment that they have relocated to their other property.
And all the asphalt's coming up, everything's coming up, and it's just going to be seeded over?
Yes, topsoil seed.
Right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Rufato. Trustee Kruger?
Thank you, Mr. President. Andrew, quick question. You've been at this a long time. I'm assuming that there have been gobs of fines and citations against this owner. Have they all been adjudicated and collected?
There were large fines on past actions that were collected. The intention this time around is to use the demolition cost lien as the stick.
The final fine. Okay, it's kind of an easy out for the owner. I created this mess over decades, and now the village is going to do it, but as long as we can collect from him in some way. But I recognize that the sooner we get rid of this horrid site and make a safe environment, the better. Thanks.
Thank you, Trustee Kruger. Are there any other questions or comments? Trustee Vogel.
Just one last question. Why are we leaving the footings? Wouldn't we normally take those out and get rid of them?
They will be removing the foundation that leads down to the footing. The footing itself would be at a depth that we aren't anticipating it being a major problem. I can always speak with the contractor to see if that's something that we would do as a change order. If there was direction to fully remove the footings, we could work with them on it.
Well, by leaving them, would they have to be removed at a later date?
It really depends on how the property is utilized. If it were to be just hypothetically a parking area, they wouldn't necessarily be a problem. But it's something we could talk to them about if that was the direction of the board.
I'd kind of like to see they be removed. I think that's part of the whole project. If we're going to leave them and we decide that there's going to be something there other than a paved parking lot, they're going to eventually have to be removed. So maybe just if we're going to get it ready, get them all out at this point and be done with it.
If there's concurrence, we can do that as a change order.
Trustee Papantos, considerations for the footings as well as the foundation?
As a change order, sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes? Mr. Vita?
That's fine.
Trustee Vogel?
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Rufato?
No, I would say if there's a developer that's going to come in and do something with them, let them work on all of those things. Why add the cost to us? We're taking this property down because it's unsafe. Why add more cost to it? Because we're not going to be marketing it, would be my take on it.
If we eventually leave it, they're going to come back and ask for TIF funds anyway, I assume, 3-4 years down the road, and it'll cost us more. If we got someone under contract, all the equipment's there, I think it'd be cheaper to get rid of it right now. So.
That's true too, but you've got a bunch of yeses anyway, so.
Stick with your no.
No, yeah, I'd stay with a no.
Okay. Actually, I'm a yes for removing the footings as well. I was asking Mr. Spondilis about that. So could we make the change order and see what they'll charge?
Absolutely.
They're going to be there anyway. All right. So then I need a motion to approve a revised.
Well, we don't have a price for the change order, so I would just approve as is and
As
just
is.
have staff negotiate the change, which we'll come back with.
I need that motion.
So moved.
Trustee Lang.
Second.
Trustee Rufato.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Rufato?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes.
New item 13G, ordinance amending Title 8, Chapter 8.60, possession or purchase of tobacco, tobacco accessories, or smoking herbs by minors of the Wheeling Village Code to raise the minimum age to 21 years of age.
Trustee Papantos, you had a question.
Yes, thank you. I realize we're doing this because the state law has changed for the prohibition of purchase of tobacco, tobacco accessories, et cetera, to 21, but the state law has not changed for possession. And I question how we're going to, A, enforce this, and B, if it's really worth putting in an ordinance if we can't enforce it. We go one step further. Somebody who has been smoking for 2 years legally is suddenly told you have to quit, or if you're seen holding a cigarette in your hand, you're guilty of breaking the law, and maybe that person doesn't want to break the law. You know, there's a lot of ifs and ands. I agree, smoking is bad. A former smoker, it took forever to quit. It's hard, it's tough. I'm not sure raising the age will indeed stop youth from smoking. You want to advertise to somebody under the age of 18 not to do something, just, you know, make it 18 and older, and, you know, it suddenly becomes very appealing. 18-year-old men are required to register with Selective Service. An 18-year-old with parental permission can buy and own a gun. 18-year-olds can serve in the armed forces and carry a gun and shoot people, yet we won't let them have a cigarette. We don't assume that they can make a good judgment to smoke or not to smoke. And that's where I have the problem with this part of the ordinance.
Any other comments? Did you have some?
Do you want an answer to any of that?
Sure.
Well, as far as, I mean, because we can't enforce the rule, I think it becomes a challenge as far as, and we can let Deputy Chief Wolf speak a little more specifically, but as far as enforcement goes, I think it is a municipal citation ticket whenever
Through the course of enforcing other rules and regulations and laws, we come upon an 18 to 21-year-old in possession or smoking a cigarette, they get a citation. Is it something where we're going to go out and try and find under 21 folks smoking? No. So the intent on our end was continuity. The state law requires that we change law for purchase, so it just made sense to us that you would do both sides of the coin and also include possession. That at least is the explanation from our end as to why we presented it this way.
Mr. Ferrolo?
Thank you, President Horker. Trustee Papantos, our village code at Chapter 8.60, which is being amended by this ordinance tonight, has always regulated possession, sale, and purchase. The only elements of the village code that are changing is the age, from 18 to 21. So this has been on the books, as far as I can tell, for many, many years when the age relating to tobacco was turned to 18. Now that we're under the Prevention of Tobacco Use by Minors and Sale Act, which is the state law, that the amendment goes into effect July 1st, as Manager Spondilis indicated, we're obligated now to match the state law. We can't be less restrictive than state law, much like alcohol. We can't have our own rules regarding tobacco. So the state law does apply to sale and use, not just use. Our code has always had sale, use, and possession because I think when you think about it, it makes sense. Sale, purchase, not use. Sale, purchase, and possession. How often will our police department be in a position to witness a purchase? Probably pretty infrequently. But as Manager Spondilis indicated, someone could be pulled over or stopped for something else where the possession of tobacco could come into play. So we aren't changing our code any more than matching the state law. We have always touched on purchase, sale, and possession. State law goes to both sale and purchase.
I mean, I argue the fact, though, too, that if you pull somebody over, they may have bought their cigarettes in a state where it's legal to buy cigarettes at the age of 19 or 20.
And then they would have to make that argument to the judge when they
Trustee Vito, you have something you say?
Yeah. So is Mary correct, Trustee Papantos correct, that the state law does not regulate possession?
State law speaks to sale and purchase.
Okay. So under the state law, if a 19-year-old finds a box of Marlboro Reds in the dumpster and takes it and then walks up to a police officer, if there's no municipal ordinance regulating that, he can be in possession of those.
I'm not sure about that, actually. I think he'd have to defend himself that he didn't purchase it. I think it's definitely an open question. But we've always regulated this, Trustee Vito. This is not a new regulation in Wheeling.
Yeah, that doesn't mean it doesn't need to be looked at. I mean, I think that the point of the law was to go against the vendors more than the users.
I'm not sure that's true either.
Well, if it's to persecute kids, then I'm really against it.
Well, it's to stop smoking in young people.
Right.
Not to persecute kids, right?
Well, I understand that, but I mean, I think it was more, what's a fine then? Who gets fined under the state law? Who gets sanctioned under the state law if?
Both. Could be both. It's the seller and the possessor.
But if they don't have a possession clause in the state law, under what mechanism are they?
Let me rephrase, purchaser or seller. Under our code, it's purchaser, possessor, or seller. State law is a Class A misdemeanor. Our code is up to a $500 fine and loss of your tobacco retailer's license for the seller, for the purchaser, up to a $500 fine. It doesn't have to be a $500 fine. It's up to. And this is the kind of thing that can be adjudicated in our administrative adjudication. So I think there's going to be some range.
Anyone else? Trustee Kruger.
Thank you. Manager Spondilis, you may have said this when you spoke before, but I missed it. What are other communities doing now that the state has changed the law?
They are doing what we are doing, which is trying to wrap it all into one larger picture, to keep it as our ordinance already states: possession, purchase, use.
And that is...
That is commonplace.
We would find that commonplace
Yes.
in Buffalo Grove, Northbrook.
Yes.
Thank you.
Trustee Papantos, any further comments?
No.
Trustee Vito?
No.
Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion trustee Lang, second trustee Rufato.
Trustee Rufato?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
No.
President Horker?
Yes. Official communications.
The Wheeling Memorial Day Parade will be held this Monday at 10 a.m. Parade begins at the former Sam's Club, 1055 McHenry Road, and travels southeast on McHenry Road to the Wheeling AMVETS Post 66 at 700 McHenry Road. Following the parade, there will be a short ceremony at AMVETS. McHenry Road will be totally closed from Aptekissick Road to Lexington Drive from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. And just a reminder, Village Hall is closed that day. That's it.
Thank you, Deputy Clerk. Anyone else?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger.
Thank you. I suppose the topic tonight of the Pearle Vision Facade Improvement Grant made me think about when's the last time we looked at the facade improvement grant for, I guess, the eligible projects. Just that I'm wondering, we've had a few that seemed a little more maintenance oriented, find and weed their way in, and I'm just wondering if it might be good to have a discussion as a group about the facade improvement grant program and make it as robust as possible, or maybe prevent any more, I don't know, being wishy-washy about what is allowed and what is not.
You want to workshop the parameters of the grant? Do you want to meet with, how would you like to do it? What would you like to
I
do?
mean, I think that, the facade improvement grant is a case-by-case basis decided by the board, right? And recommended by a facade improvement committee.
Right.
I would think that the board should all have an equal say in how that program should operate so that we know how to deliver it or offer it to people when they come for it.
Okay. Mr. Spondilis?
Yeah, if everyone agrees, we can certainly bring it back under the guise of just reviewing the parameters of the program. It is true that over the years, the intent has shifted a little and maintenance has started to enter the equation for some of the approvals. So sure, if that's what the board would like to do, that I can bring it back to review what the original intent was, what the rules are, and then however the board sees fit to edit the current program.
Trustee Rufato, how do you feel about that?
I would agree.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
But I remember we talked about this a number of years ago, and we sort of loosened it up because it wasn't being used. And so we kind of expanded it to other areas so it would be used more often. It doesn't hurt to look at it again.
Maybe they can address that aspect of it when we workshop it again.
But I kind of agreed with it back then that, I'd rather it be used than not be used. So, yeah, we can look at it again.
Trustee Vito?
Sure. Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
I agree with what Trustee Lang said, but yes.
Okay. Trustee Vogel?
That's fine.
Okay, so Mr. Spondilis, maybe you could see when we could work that in.
I will do that. Thank you.
I have another item that I
Trustee
thought of,
Krueger.
only in talking about Evangers. When a company closes and they demo their building, is it required that they remove their pad and the footings and all these underneath type things?
So the section of the code that deals with demolition and the requirements for demolition has a long checklist. The pad, yes. The foundation, yes. I don't recall the footings are on that list or not. I can double check, but there's a long list of items that are required as a part of a demolition permit.
I imagine you can guess where I'm going with this. There's been a business that was demolished a long time ago, but the pad still remains. And it's an eyesore and it's a mess, and I'm wondering, what are we doing about that? Why didn't they have to remove it? Shouldn't they? Perhaps this is something we can take offline, but talking about Evangers made me think about that, and it's been quite some time.
Sure.
So, and lastly, I hope to see a whole bunch of people along both sides of Old McHenry Road for the Memorial Day Parade on Monday. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Kruger. Any other comments? If we have no other, Trustee Papantos.
Thank you. Happy Memorial Day to everyone, because we won't be meeting until after Memorial Day. And secondly, do we have a joint meeting with the Plan Commission coming up?
Thursday, I believe.
This Thursday on the 23rd at the Public Works Building. So if you care to, please attend. And thank you, Dr. Portnoy, for recognizing our staff and for being as I've said, I've lived here a long time, and I do remember your building forever, and have been in there on more than one occasion. But thank you for recognizing staff and the fact that they are pleasant to work with. We don't always hear that. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Papantos. If there are...
I'd just like to point out that I did not set that up.
I did.
Trustee Vito gave me a look.
I didn't give you a look. You smirked at me.
I hit him.
That's fine.
If we have no other questions, comments, wisecracks, we do have before, we're done? We're good? We do have before you the bills for May 2nd through the 15th, 2019. I need a motion for their approval.
So moved. Second?
Motion, Trustee Lang, second, Trustee Kruger. Roll call, please.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Rufato?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. We have no executive session this evening, so there will be no recess. I do need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion, Trustee Rufato, second.
Second?
Trustee Kruger. Meeting
in favor.
adjourned. Thank you.
Oh, aye.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
There's someone.